Tradition.
All right, we're here. Welcome back. Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Can you believe it? 6. We've really come a long way.
Since our return from our hiatus.
And we are in a new place. We are with a very special guest today. Welcome. This is Mr. Douglas Polistena. Round of applause. We are here at the illustrious Amber Room Colonnade in Danbury, Connecticut. It's a very special place, a very familiar place for many people from the Greater Danbury area, I would say. Larger than that, Fairfield County. But today we're talking about a really fun and timely topic. We are going to cover traditions.
Yes, we're a week and a day from Thanksgiving and officially kicked off the holiday season. So we were kind of musing around, what traditions have stayed, what have changed, particularly over the generations, and what's influenced some of that. So who's better than Doug, who's seen
No one.
pretty much it all in the past 20 years in terms of weddings and celebrations and all the things. So
That's right.
thanks, Doug.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for loaning us your beautiful new hospitality suite to film this in. It is cozy and elegant.
I like that. I'm going to put that in the marketing
Yeah.
material.
Okay. Well, you can send me my royalty check after that. Okay. So first, before we get in, I think it's important to note to everyone that we know you very well for many, many years. I went to school with you. We're in the same family now. Both of us entered the same family by marriage.
That is true.
And you are a staple within the community, I think it's fair to say. I'd say.
I forgot one more thing.
What?
I'm your son's godfather.
Of course.
That's an important. I think before all of that one comes first.
And he tried to change my son's name at the baptism. But that's a side note. But yes, you are. But no, I think the Amber Room, when people think of this place, we were just talking about this the other day, actually, with someone who wasn't familiar with the Amber Room, is it holds a very special place in almost everyone's memory from this area, whether it was a prom, whether it was a wedding, whether it was a sports banquet, or as you get into the professional years of your life, you spend a lot of mornings here for breakfast. You spend a lot of networking nights here.
Gala. Doug and I have some gala history. Yeah.
And so it's a place that's really become like a staple in the community. And you guys do so much great, amazing work out into the community, helping all sorts of organizations and stuff. You have seen it all, like Mary said. You've literally seen it all. So let's start with one entry question for you about traditions, okay? What is the earliest tradition that you remember growing up with? This is a personal question.
Personal question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
There was a lot of traditions growing up in an Italian family.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was being in Brooklyn and going on Sundays for a family dinner that was at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then just everybody just kept coming in, and you're eating and eating and eating.
Yeah.
And that's probably where my first love of food came from. Thanksgiving, when I was younger, we used to go away on Thanksgiving, my mother and I, and family friends, and we would go to all different places. So Thanksgiving for me was always about vacation and seeing where we were going to wind up. But traditions and family, like even with Christmas, my family used to host Christmas. So everybody would come, and then the next day, a different side of the family would come, and you just would spend so much time with family. And for me, that's really what it all comes down to, is spending time with family, getting to see people you haven't seen in so long. And for me personally, with our family, we try to keep those traditions. As you know, even on Christmas Day, as for us and people that are watching might not realize this, a small party is now considered 40 or 50 people in our family.
That's a nice small event.
And when we do an event, it's usually more of 80 to 100 people. So when we tell people about, we're having family over, it's only 40 people, people may have a heart attack. But our extended family has certainly grown over the years.
Yeah, which helps keep the traditions alive. I mean, I think, us also being related, have very similar, I think, traditions that I harken back to, big, loud, crazy Christmas Eves and then Christmas days. And then you make your little micro traditions, as your own family units and stuff. And then they change.
Well, I think a big tradition that has changed over the generations is what Doug talked about. So I remember too, growing up, every Sunday I went to my grandmother's. So it was church, and then my mother would put out like a huge like lunch
Right.
for us, like the immediate family, like roast beef and mashed potatoes, and then we go to my nonna's house.
Have
And
it, you
then you would have it twice. And this was every Sunday we did this. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very similar. It was just Sundays were really just about
Eating.
eating and family.
together.
Yeah. And church was a big factor back then. And I definitely think that for the most part, those kinds of traditions have changed.
They have. Because now, I mean, even with my own family, it's constant sporting events.
Yeah.
It's constant. There's always something to do. And it's harder and harder to keep track of everything. For better or for worse, you have so many events that life happens that you don't get to have that close-knit every week consistency that you're accustomed, that we were once accustomed to.
And I don't know if I'd want that obligation now, to be honest.
It feels like a lot.
Like it
feels like a
hindsight
lot.
now, my life now.
You
I'm
might
like,
be the one cooking there.
Yeah.
well, maybe that's why I don't want it. I don't know.
But I mean, if I'm thinking about it too, if I think about the traditions I had as a kid, you had as a kid, as you grow, they change. And then like as you know, your girls are preteen, teenage, right? Mine are a little younger. But even in those small lifespans, things have changed. And like you, same thing. Now your kids are grown, you know, half out of the house, more or less. Like the things you used to do, you don't really do anymore because either it's harder or, you know, people's interests shift, or now there's new people, there's partners, there's significant others, there's friends. Like all of that is like, I think, the natural cycle of traditions evolving. But like that obviously also feeds into like what you see in the catering space. So like what have you seen in a nutshell kind of change since you've taken over here at the Amber Room?
So I think the traditional wedding has
I
certainly
think that's a great example.
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different factors that come into play. I think the shift with COVID really changed the whole industry. It changed everything from weddings to dining out, right? You go now, any restaurant in the area closes 9:30.
Yeah.
Even diners that have such a big part in history of our lives close at 8:00 sometimes,
So
or 7
weird.
o'clock. It's a
Well, even
strange-
in the nonprofit space, like I know you support a lot of nonprofits in their endeavors, and I'm not leader in the nonprofit space. Same thing with events.
it's
It has
just changed.
changed.
It's the whole. It's
They
been
haven't
a whole
gone away,
shift.
but it's changed.
Yeah, and so even with breakfasts, we used to do so many different breakfasts for nonprofits specifically, and after COVID, so you have the pre-COVID era and post-COVID era, and after COVID, nobody wanted to get up as early anymore. So
Get up, get dressed. I think it's more like get dressed.
So we've seen those breakfasts shifting, even from times where they used to start at 7 or 7:30. Now we have breakfasts starting at 8:30 instead. We have breakfasts that were always consistent breakfasts now going to lunch instead of doing a breakfast. So that's changed a lot from an event perspective. But going back to weddings, I think now with weddings, with the younger generation, it sounds weird to say that, but it's not as pertinent to have a large, huge wedding as it once was.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of more micro weddings. We see a lot of non-traditional weddings where you're not having a 3-course or 4-course meal. Instead, they're doing stations, or they're doing different things that aren't so wedding centric.
So a little less formal.
A little
you
less
say?
formal. Yep. And you don't, like, we do get big weddings, right? We're still doing the 200, 250 person weddings, but they're not as common as they once were.
Yeah.
And I see it's not just the Amber Room, it's across the board.
Right.
Weddings are changing. People are saying, hey, I'd rather buy a house than have a wedding. Or I'm going to wait to do everything at once, whether it's a baptism and a wedding together, so that they're doing 2 events instead of 1. Or they might just say, want to go on a destination wedding instead.
Right.
So we're seeing that shift a little bit. The other thing too is that we also see people don't want to be the center of attention. And I know that sounds like
That
strange.
is fascinating.
That's interesting. Wait, tell me more about that.
Brides or grooms, nervous or they don't want to be in front of everybody. They don't want to talk in front of people. They don't want to have that first dance. And I hear constantly from our clients like, oh, no, we don't want to do that. Or no, we don't want to have our own table or anything. So you see that shift taking place too. And I think it has a lot to do with COVID. My other theory is too that when COVID happened, right? And I know we keep focusing on this and it's 5 years away already. And we want to put this all behind us, of course. But during that time, people weren't going out. People weren't meeting each other. And now with the shift of social media and so many different things when it comes to tech, and even places closing early, right? There's not that opportunity for younger people to be going out. So you have less and less weddings taking place because of that, right? Because traditionally it always used to be you meet, you date, it's a year, 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like young people are really not getting married, not dating.
They're waiting a little bit.
Yeah, waiting longer.
And so we see that shift take place.
Yeah.
For us, we never wanted to be just a wedding factory. We didn't want to be that place that does only A and not worry about B or C. So we've always taken the approach to diversify our book of business, and we do everything. It's not anything that's specific and we say, okay, we're just weddings or we're just corporate or we're just proms. We take everything so that if there is a huge shift like that took place, that we're prepared and we're inside and we have something taking place.
So let's go back to the wedding theory with COVID. Do you think it's COVID, or do you think that COVID gave people permission to have the event that they really want?
I think COVID.
Because I will say, like, all right, so me and my husband had our reception here. 28 years.
Recently, 28 years ago.
28 years ago last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was a very, like, traditional in the Catholic Church mass ceremony, come back to the Amber Room, and really meeting the expectations of others in terms of how the wedding rolls out. The dance, the this and that, the cake, I didn't do favors, which back then was like, we made a donation in honor of our guests, but that was like really radical at the time. So I think, although there's been this shift, I kind of enjoy going to weddings where I can really see the personality of the bride and groom play out in how they choose to host their wedding versus I'm doing the cookie cutter or because grandma expects X and mother-in-law expects Y or whatever.
So I think COVID definitely accelerated it, right? It was bound to change because of just the way society goes, right? And I do think that social media played a huge role. And we saw the shift even before social became like so prevalent, and that was through the wedding shows, right? Whether it was for weddings or whatever it may be, that reality TV started making the shift. So this is now going back
Say Yes to the Dress,
Say Yes to the Dress, all of that stuff. And that's going back to really like 2011, 2012.
Early on.
Is when that started making the change. Then social media pushed that to a whole nother level, and then COVID just
knocked it out.
Right? So there was always kind of the writing on the wall that things were going to change, traditions were going to change. Now, with that said, there still are weddings that take place in a very traditional aspect, right? Whether it's a cultural thing, Greek or Italian or Portuguese. These are deep-rooted cultures, and not to say that any other culture isn't deep-rooted, but those specific ones, those are the ones that are more, they have expectations set on them, whether it's through their grandparents or parents or just the way they've grown up, or they've seen all their other relatives do that, and that's what's expected. And so we still do a lot of that and have those traditional aspects. In fact, we just went to one recently that was just such a fun, great wedding. And even being in the business, you can still constantly learn. Like there was something where they built the wedding cake right there in the middle of the dance floor while dinner was taking place. So
can we talk about that as an example? Because it's also a really good segue into my next question. So I was at that wedding, and it was one of the most fun weddings we've been to in a long time. Shout out to whose wedding it was.
We danced a lot.
My feet still have blisters, and it's over a month ago. And I hadn't been to a wedding in a while, actually. So that was the first one in a while. And I'm always interested to see what those new things are. So like you always get excited about the new little offerings that you do and the cool creative ideas you come up with. So sometimes you would share them with us. But I had never heard of the build your own cake thing, right? And so it worked for this couple because they were foodies and they're so deeply into all of it. But then you start to think about it more and you start to think about like with all of these things that you're doing, one, obviously there's costs involved, but it's the weighing of it. It's the, I'm going to invest in this because it's important to me, even though I know this means no one's on the dance floor for the next 45 minutes, right? It's like, and it's a little bit disorienting for probably a lot of people because they're like, what's going on? Like there's 3 chefs out on the dance, whether it's a cake or whether it's some other example, you get what I'm saying? Like there's a trade-off happening, but the underlying theme, I guess, is that they're doing it for themselves,
right?
Which is what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
That didn't used to happen.
Nice. Yeah.
Like that couple probably was like, we're going to pay extra. We want this because we love cooking. We love baking. This is cool as hell to us. And that didn't used to happen all the time. But like, so you see that a lot now, right? Like people will say, I want my guests to have take-home packages or a wall of this or a champagne wall or what. Like those are individual touches, even if it's a very traditional event. Right.
So for me personally, I'm always about experience. I want, we can do a very cookie cutter event. We can have the same exact event over and over again, but that doesn't do any good for us, right? As our business, as our reputation, as our brand, because as both of you know, we have many clients that are here or guests that are here multiple times. We had one guest, I was joking with him last night. He was here on Thursday, he was here on Saturday, he was here on Monday, he was here last night. And I joked with him, I said, you know what, you've been here 4 times in the past 5 days, but the good news is that you have a different meal every day.
There you go.
I said, so that's great. And he joked right back, and he said, the only place I eat is at the Amber Room in my office. So it works out really well. But for me, I'm all about creating an experience. Right?
Yeah.
So we want it to be different, and we want it to be unique. And that's some of the challenges that we always have. Is how do we top what we just did, or how do we make it different from the last event that guest attended? So it might not seem like, because you don't always see the background or the behind the scenes of what takes place, but it's a lot of work to make sure that you're creating a different experience each time around. And we're very fortunate, as you mentioned, to be a staple in the community, and we've worked really hard to create that brand and that reputation, but we also don't want it ever to be like, oh, I'm going to the Amber Room again, or I have to do this again. So we try to even give our clients recommendations of say, hey, let's change this, or let's tweak this, or let's make this happen. I think by using that example of making the cake on the dance floor or having an illusionist walking around during cocktail hour, those are things that stick out, right? And it might not be sometimes the most ideal from a timing perspective or an event timeline or whatnot, but it sticks out and it leaves people talking about your event. And so we have some clients that we've done. I have one particular client. We did their wedding in 2011 and it's now 2025. We have done almost every single year since 2011 an event for them in some capacity, even during the time of shutdown. The second we were allowed to open, did a 12-person birthday party for them. So there was so many different things, but that we want people to keep coming back and we want to make lifelong.
So they can have their own traditions here in different forms.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because it sounds like either by necessity or because you want to allow for these new experiences. Are you better poised to have that conversation now than 20 years ago? Because people are more open to it.
I think so. I think it's a combination, right? Because it's experience. So I remember way back when I first started, kind of green, you don't know what you're doing. You kind of throw something at the wall and hopes it sticks and you go from there. But now having the experience and having worked with so many different clients and executing 4,000 plus events, you get to start to see what works, what doesn't work. Hey, this client did this, or let's do that. Especially even in the nonprofit world, everybody wants something, right? So everybody wants to give, hopefully, and that's why they're attending and they're supporting the cause. But if they can get something, and I tell all my nonprofit clients this, if they can get something in return, that's always a huge bonus, right? Whether that's a swag bag or whether it's a game of chance so that they're donating to the cause, but they have a chance to get something. It doesn't matter what kind of economic situation you're in, you always want something,
Yeah.
right? So it's things like that that keep it fresh, keep it different, keep it exciting, whether it's a simple game of Plinko or spin the wheel for a game of chance that you're going to get a wine bottle or a gift card.
Yeah.
Those are things that we're always constantly giving feedback to and giving advice to clients. Say, hey, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And we go to a lot of different courses, we, go to seminars, we meet with people, all that stuff to bring that back to our clients to say, hey, we can do this. Have you ever heard of a sensory event? And somebody will say, well, what's a sensory event? An event has so many different components, whether you're seeing or smelling or hearing. How do you incorporate all of that? We have clients, we had one client once where they brought it to me, they gave me 6 different themes. And they said, I want this, and this in my event. How do we make that happen? And we did it. We executed every single theme. And that client had no idea what they were walking into. But I'll tell you, we did individual ice sculpture plates for every single person at ended up, and we had it lit up with gelato in the center. And I didn't know how that was going to go. And they knew that we were doing something like that. But all of a sudden, people started asking for bags to go because they had never seen anything like that. And they were taking the ice sculpture plate, putting in a bag so they could bring home and show their family.
So what do you think? So that's really cool. I wish I was at that. What impact do you think social media has on all the range, not just weddings, but like on all of these events that you're executing on in terms of expectation or something new?
So there's so many good things about social media, so many good things, and there's so many bad things.
I think we would agree.
I think as a business owner, operator, one of the things when it comes to social is we can hit it out of the park 100 times in a row. That was the best event we ever had. But you have one bad day, one off day, somebody does something that is beyond your control, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden, that person goes on social media and you have to do damage control, you have to explain yourself. And there's so many businesses that get put in that position. And I think that's a really challenging time. And I always, there's a huge sign that says our reputation is only as good as today's performance. And we have that on both of our doors when they go from the kitchen into the room so that everybody's reminded of that. But, just being in the hospitality business in general, I've seen other restaurateurs or hospitality establishments get a really bad rap because of one thing that somebody did. So that's the negative portion. Where it helps though, and we use this ourselves, is what are the new trends? What's taking place? What are other people doing? Not to copy them, but to see like, hey, did this work? And how do we make this our own?
Like to stay ahead of it.
Exactly. Or from social media aspect, the good, right? Just as negative that it can be great. Because somebody has a great event, they're going to be posting about it. They're going to be talking about it. Other people are going to see that. And all of a sudden now that increases your visibility. One of the hardest things, I think, for any venue, for any restaurateur is putting your brand out there. And it's always amazing. For us, we've been in business for 56 years, but there's still people in this area that have never been to the Amber Room, or never seen the Amber Room, never heard of it. And for us, we want to...
Shocking.
I do, but it happens.
One of those people who've been here for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That said, we need to always get that exposure, and that's what social media does. And I would say, in addition to that, just have people with social media that are influencers too, and that creates content, and that helps.
Right. I mean, like you were saying, like there's an expectation, like you mentioned, or I think you mentioned before, like the early aughts when all of the kind of that wedding fever started and there was like say yes to the dress and all this stuff, these, big focus on, quinceañeras and other events that suddenly needed to be big and grand. Whether you're ever going to do that yourself, there is an expectation that exists. And I think that was when it was very mainstream TV, and then social media took it, and that's happening on a micro level a million times per second. Any bride or bride-to-be or just got married is posting everything about their experience, creating this standard that people are always chasing. Maybe they're not going to pull the trigger on it, but they're internalizing it. And so, like, I imagine that someone like yourself needs to know what that standard line is, because you can't fall below it or else you're going to have a social media problem on your hands. But you'd also don't want to be the one who's constantly reaching ahead unnecessarily too, so it's like knowing your playground.
Yeah. And it's hard too, because from a business perspective, you have to stay relevant. So you always have to make those posts. You always have to make sure that you're not doing something that, again, is going to harm your brand.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you're still staying relevant and still staying above the curve. We had a fun little thing that we did when Taylor Swift and Kelsey got engaged.
Oh, yeah.
And we put a little picture of the Amber Room and had her song and had them at the Amber Room grounds. And it got over 10,000 views.
I mean, it was great.
That is the one that really
because it was textbook PR though. Like you used the moment, that you seized a moment in time, and you just did something. And you didn't do it thinking you were going to get you weren't going to drive business necessarily, but you did it to be relevant. That's
exactly. Also, what I did is I tagged her mom, I tagged her best friend, I tagged every single person that we could think of to make sure that there were eyes on this.
Oh,
so we talked about some wedding traditions, right? But so I'm curious about just other types of traditions that you've seen. So like some examples I want to throw out there are proms, baptisms. You alluded to quinceaneras and sweet 16s and bar and bat mitzvahs. So like generally speaking, what traditions have changed?
So I personally handle all of the proms that come through. And it's kind of strange because now we're doing reunions of people whose proms. That's a little odd to me. But the proms have definitely, and the reason why I personally handle all the proms is because I always want to push that envelope. I always want to do something different. Proms used to be, just a formal dance and so forth.
Do you want to know what the favors were at my prom?
What were the
You had favors? We didn't have favors.
We had favors.
1986. Shout out. 1986. I think our theme was tender love.
Tender love.
We got wine glasses and matchbooks.
Matchbooks. Wow.
If nothing dates you, that just did.
X. That's why
wine glasses and
that's why Gen X is it.
As a senior in high school?
Juniors and seniors.
Incredible.
Wow. We got glasses. We did get glasses.
What do you mean? Like drinking glasses?
No, it wasn't wine glasses.
We got wine glasses. I think I still have it.
I have no memory.
I should have brought it.
I was the prom chair junior year too, and I have no memory.
Fairly certain we got glasses.
So aside from the fashions,
yes, certainly changed with proms.
Clearly, the favors have changed.
Favors? There are no favors anymore. That's not a thing.
I don't think that a school would get away with wine glasses and matchbooks.
With proms, it depends on the school. So we have certain schools that really, really go all out. We have some schools that it's more about dancing, and we have some schools that's more about food. We see a lot more themes when it comes to proms, and then we get a lot more involved with executing those things.
Sure. How's that shifted from?
I was going to ask, how's that changed?
It shifted. I see more schools now combining junior and senior prom to save on expenses, and then those become larger. We see some schools that are doing games now because not everybody wants to dance or not everybody wants to sit at their table. So they're creating other opportunities for their students so that they don't just have that one thing that they need to do.
Because I think that is a tradition, coming of age tradition that's definitely shifted.
Yes.
Mostly in light of social media. Back in Gen X's
in 1986.
Like there was I think a dance like every month in the school cafeteria. God, and that's just where you gathered, right? Because you weren't texting your friends, you weren't so hyper connected. So that's how you were plugged into what was happening in the social scene. So I think as people became more tech connected, they're more disconnected in person, right? So some of those things aren't as popular. So I think that's probably helps frame why you need to have more experience
anymore. And I think that the unpredictability has really been a huge shift and change, even with events in general. We used to be able, I could close my eyes and tell you, okay, this month has this many parties. Without even anything booked, I knew where my schedule was going to be. And now the shift is so different because we used to book 2 years, 3 years out, whatever it may be. Right. Now we have events that book within 4 days, 5 days, 10 days. And so we always have to travel.
That's interesting.
So our calendars, our event schedules have changed. We go into the year with a certain amount. We always like the book of business is always, you go in with at least 50% where you're going to be. But now it's, you go in with 50% and you're getting 70% after that 50%. It's a strange shift of how last minute things are, or parties, even weddings, and that's a huge change too. Weddings are no longer booking those 2 years out or even 1 year out. Now they're booking for the year in the year. And
Oh,
I don't
that's a real
know if
interesting
it's
shift.
just because of timing. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's financial. I don't know if it's they're just waiting to see if there's a better price point
Yeah.
or whatever it may be. But we see that happen time in and time out again a lot more.
Well, I think that goes back to the point we mentioned, or your theory, I think, which is a viable one, about people are waiting to get married. They're waiting to date in many cases, by choice or otherwise. But when they're ready, they're ready.
Yes.
Or maybe they're older, which means they have the money actually to have the wedding now and not have to rely on parents, or you know what I mean? Like, I think that all of that kind of dovetail. That makes sense to me, that people are like, all right, well, I don't want to book something for 4 years away. I'm ready to do it. Let's do this damn thing. Like, let's get it over with. Like that makes kind of vibes with the generational cues I feel like we've seen. Like, they just want to get it done. Yeah.
And we see it too. A lot of has an impact, like, nationally, right? You see what's going on, whether it's politically or economically or whatever it may be. And you might not think that trickles down, but for us, because we're the event business and because people have to do planning, we can see always what the writing on the wall is going to be, in terms of economy. And we see where people are pulling back, and we see where people are spending.
So speaking of traditions, Thanksgiving's next week. So, probably traditionally people felt like they needed to cook from a whole meal, but mindsets have changed around that a little bit. And so talk a little bit about what you're doing to kind of meet the new demand.
So we do a concept called Thanksgiving in a box. Just like you said, a lot of times people, they don't have the time or they're nervous, right? Cooking a turkey might sound easy.
It doesn't sound easy.
Well, you put it in an oven, you brush it with some olive oil.
I'm a good turkey meat.
But
okay. We'll see about that.
About 5 years ago, we recognized that what if we did Thanksgiving for you? What if we took out all of the stress so that you can have
and it was COVID
out?
somewhat related, right?
It was. And so we started playing around with things. And next thing you know, we came up with Thanksgiving in a box.
Yeah.
And now what we do is we have different packages. So we have a large package, a small package, and then all a la carte options where clients can call up or guests can call up and say, hey, I want you to do our Thanksgiving meal for you. They tell us what they want, which package they want. And then we prepare everything. Everything is fully cooked. We air fry the turkeys. So it is cooked through and through. And then it's picked up the day before and warning instructions are given, and you just have to heat it up and you're good to go.
But I feel like that's a shift in a
huge shift,
traditional mindset, right?
Is.
Where people would have snubbed their nose at that. I feel that as we've evolved, I guess, we're kind of giving ourselves permission
to make things easier,
or, space.
Make those trade-offs.
Because I think it all, regardless of how the traditions played out, I think Doug hit the nail on the head when you started it. It really just comes to, if you boil it down, to family together. All the other things, like what that looks like, probably doesn't really matter. Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I did your Thanksgiving in a box. It was, I think, maybe the first or second year. And I dealt with some of that. My mom was like, as much as she totally adored you and this place, it was a shock to her tradition system of like, what do you mean you don't need me to make a turkey?
Because that's not how we do it. Right?
Yeah, that's not, no. And even though I ordered all this stuff, she still insisted on making something.
Right.
And like, we went through this a little bit for a few years. And like, I think this is the first year where I ordered everything from you, and no one is bringing anything else. Like, I'm like,
that's a lot of pressure.
But we trust you. We're good. Because it's, in the end, my rationale was, one, I'm not comfortable making a turkey. I don't have enough space in my kitchen to do all of that. And I don't want to. I want to spend time. I want to be like dressed up and ready to have a glass of wine with my family and friends. Yeah. Like, and so it's a choice that I think now where people are more comfortable making. Because there are things like that, or people are shifting traditions even further. I've heard a lot about like Thanksgiving meal in its traditional form moving to like a taco Thanksgiving or appetizers only, or a lot of that I'm into because I don't really like Thanksgiving food, but like I think that's too aggressive. I'm not like our fam isn't ready for that.
Maybe
but
that pivot. That would be Jen C's pivot.
We're doing our Thanksgiving meal on Wednesday.
Oh, yes. Back to your whole first point.
Exactly. So it was the same thing. My mother was so not understanding the concept. So I brought this whole meal. She still prepared this and prepared that. And
You're like, what was the point? Yeah.
we're on year 5. I think I'm good now. I think I got her to the
She's
point
got it.
where she's not making anything else. We're doing the same thing. We're having Thanksgiving on Wednesday, and then we're having sushi on Thanksgiving Day. So
in a different city.
In a different city, exactly.
Yeah. I love that for you. All right. So let's pivot into some speed round questions. So this will be a mix of you personally as Doug the person, and then Doug the Amber Room guy. Okay?
Are they 2 different people?
Kind of.
Because
they kind of are.
I don't know. I mean maybe
yes
because
and no.
we know him, but how many times, Doug, you know this? It's Doug from the Amber Room.
Yeah.
Like, Doug doesn't have
That
a
is
last
my
name.
tagline.
Yeah.
Like, I think people think Doug's last name is Doug from the Amber Room.
Okay. What is one tradition, and we'll all answer this quickly. What's one tradition that maybe you had as a kid or as a young adult that you have since abandoned, so that you had at some point and no longer have?
Well, I think that Sunday meals.
I know this one.
I think those that every Sunday need to cook a roast beef at 1:00.
Oh God, that sounds so gross.
And have lasagna and roasted chicken.
The last
and
thing
6
I want.
vegetables at 5. Yeah, I would say we let that go.
Okay, so Sunday meals for you. What about you?
For me, I would say the Sunday meals and just in general, having family together. Like, I know we have our extended family all the time.
Yeah.
But I used to go to Long Island and spend every Labor Day with, 40, 50, 60 cousins. And that's since faded. We don't have that anymore because just life.
Right.
But it was a huge celebration back then. I think we had like 75 or 80 years of doing that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long time.
It's a good legacy. I'd say mine is more just a symbol of growing up, but there used to be a heavy tradition of Thanksgiving Eve partying.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of it was when you were in college, you'd come home and everyone was home. But it was like that night before you'd go out. And I remember my brother for many years had a very large Thanksgiving Eve party. Went on for well over a decade, I think.
Well, then that morphed for me when I was probably like around your age-ish, where like I was raising young kids. So then that morphed into the neighborhood Thanksgiving Eve. So I remember my neighbor Jen, shout out Jen, she's in North Carolina. Like I was cutting cheese and crackers, like preparing. I was cooking because I cooked Thanksgiving dinner then before we knew about Doug. And that turned into, oh, my dad brings a special bottle of wine. You want to have some? That just turned into like all out reckless.
Now, do you still have those? Or because I know it seems like it's gone the night before.
I know. You don't see it anymore.
We don't. I mean, no.
I mean, what about your kids? Do they go out the night before? Is that even a thing? That's really a question.
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know what my oldest does now. Until adulthood. Maybe a little bit when Mia was coming back from college. Yeah. Then there also was like, kind of going back to it.
They're connected all the time.
Connected all the time. So there wasn't that like, oh my God, like we're all back in town.
Right.
And
so
I have to see what's going on.
Yeah, no,
it's more like I don't even want to be bothered.
All right. Another question. Most impressive catering curveball you've ever handled. So something that came up out of nowhere that you quickly on the ball solved for.
Probably one of the hardest events I ever did. It was a very, very, very lavish bar mitzvah. And it still scars me to this day.
Okay.
And so it was a challenging event to begin with. There was just a lot of circumstances that had taken place and a family member had passed away. So we needed to make it really, really special. And it was for 2 people because it was twins. And so it was called a Monay mitzvah. And this client wanted to put on the absolute best spectacular event that could be done. And he hired an event planner out of Westchester, New York City. So no problem. We had been working on this event for quite some time. Well, the event planner comes in and has their ideas and so forth. And a lot of stuff we could have done, but we worked together with that. And it was all of a sudden, this and we're going to have virtual reality and we're going to have, instead of a mechanical bull, we're going to do a mechanical surfboard and we're going to have Jumbotron television screen the size of Times Square that takes up the entire air wall. And we're going to do this and that. We're having Cold Stone Ice Cream come in and doing. So
wow,
we have all this stuff, right? We're working together. We have lounge furniture. We have the room was spectacular. Day of comes and the event production person
Yeah.
was hiring people from Long Island, was hiring from and spending an exorbitant
Right.
amount of money, right?
Right.
And we're trying to guide our client and trying not to step on toes and so forth. So day comes and all these vendors start coming in. But the event production person is not here because they're on another job in New York City and they send some of their
backup.
team
Yeah.
or whatnot. But the Jumbotron person, video wall, comes in and says, oh, I need 6 dedicated 120 amp circuits. The DJ comes in, I need 5 120 amp circuits. Virtual reality, oh, I need another 3. Well, we don't have
I mean, you're not
dedicated
electrical wholesalers.
and in the room, there's maybe a total of 6 circuits. One person needed 6 circuits.
Oh my God.
Let alone all of these other people. So I had my oh crap moment and I pulled a few strings because at this point I'm like, what are we going to do? We do not have enough power to run all of this. This is not going to work. And we had another event next door too. So we couldn't even borrow power from the other side or anything like that. It's 3:00 on a Saturday. The event starts at 6:00. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I started making phone calls.
Oh God, this is making me stressed hearing this.
I finally was able to get somebody to bring a generator on a trailer generator, which is no small thing, let me tell you. And we brought a trailer generator to the back of the Amber Room, and I ran power cords and a distro box and everything so that everybody had power and the client was none the wiser.
Bravo, Doug.
The problem with that was we were supposed to split the cost with the event production person because they never told us.
You needed 11 extra. Yeah.
And we got burned.
Yeah,
well, lesson learned. Now you know the questions to ask, right?
Exactly.
Now you don't know.
Yeah.
You want a Jumbotron? Go find somewhere else. All right. One more question. Let's see. And all of us can answer this. Okay. What is one tradition that needs a glow up or a modern twist? Like something that's overdue for a change. Yeah, it's a toughie.
I mean, I'm always about, again, that experience, right? And I think having somebody leave with something in general, right? If you're going to an event, a gala, a fundraising event, and you're spending however much a ticket is, whether it's 150, 250, 350, now even 500 for certain events, I think you should be leaving with something. And I think bringing back that tradition of a swag bag, of having something that's meaningful, it creates just a nice experience. It's a full-fledged experience, right? For me, when I create an event, I want to have something that is from start to finish. From the second you walk in the door, you have that wow factor, whether it's a specialty drink in a specific vessel or you have an entertainer, you have something through and throughout. That last element of it is just kind of the final, like, thank you. And I think that's something that would be nice to have, whether it's a glow up or whether it's just bringing back the tradition of that. And I'm not talking about putting pens or paper in a bag that have, I'm saying something
thoughtful,
meaningful, thoughtful that is in use. You go to some of these award shows or things and they have full rooms of that you could just walk in. But I think connecting that and having that community aspect in it so that it's almost like tenfold, right? You get to advertise your product.
I mean, it's no different than like a marketing concept of if someone's walking out the door with something that reminds them in posterity of the thing.
And that's what I would love to see a little bit more of.
Right. And to do creatively. What about you?
We'll take it.
We have budgets and we have to
That's true. Budgets are endless.
And we hear at the other side from donors.
Like don't give us that.
Yeah.
I know.
So, but I like the give them opportunities to give with an experience. I think that's a great idea. Oh, boy, I have to think about a tradition that needs a glow up. I think one thing we could kind of go back to or revisit and glow up is maybe like dressing for some of these like holidays and stuff.
Yep.
Everyone's gotten a little
too cash.
I'm the biggest culprit.
I think that's a really interesting topic that probably warrants a bigger conversation too, is that, like I said a couple weeks ago when we had an event here, actually, in my time since going to this event has changed drastically in attire. What used to be like this, people on a Saturday morning were dressed to the nines. It was like big deal. And it was like a stress of, oh God, I gotta get up early and get myself prepared for a noon event. And then this most recent time, I would say 80% of the people had on slacks or jeans.
But see, that's what's changing too. You asked about the shift. It has changed besides the timing, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's a breakfast,
Right.
or people want to end earlier, that's completely changed. And we
Yeah.
see that, and
Yeah.
again, I'm going to keep referring to Mary with this, with
Yeah.
the nonprofit world.
Right.
We've seen that shift big time, right?
Yeah.
Like even myself, I wear a tie when I need to wear a tie, but
Yeah.
I'd much rather,
Of
I'd
course.
prefer not
Yeah.
to wear a tie, right? So, but we see it more and more. Things that used to be black tie affair
Right.
are now no tie at all.
Right.
Or,
Right.
that's
Right. And somebody who works in
really-
that space, like, because sometimes you're caught between like
Old
an
school
older
expectations.
well, what's our donor base now?
Yeah.
Like, what's the generation of our
Right.
donor base? What are they looking for? They're looking for the experience. They want to have fun. They don't necessarily want the stuffy, like,
Which one we
crystal
get. Yeah.
glasses and china. That
get
was
that.
the thing of,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
And there's
my
that
generation, the
expression
generation ahead
of
me.
individuality too, I think, which is more of the
They wanna
social
have more
media
fun.
impact. It's
Yeah.
like, if I'm going to this thing, I want it to mean something to me, or else I'm not going. And I want to show up how I want to show up. Last final thought. What do traditions mean to you now in 2025? Like, what's a word you'd use to describe what traditions are?
I would say important, right? Because without
Mm.
traditions, we have nothing, right?
Right.
Because
It's identity.
I think it is. It's an identity. It's important to keep with tradition.
Yeah.
It's not saying you can't make new traditions,
Sure.
but if you have something, whether it's for your family, for your kids,
Right.
for yourself, I think it's important to have that and create that legacy that you can
Yeah.
look back on, because it shapes us. It shapes who we are. It shaped who I was, right? Just enjoying family dinner or getting together with people. That is so important, because if you don't have that, then
Yeah.
you have isolation, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not able to communicate even with your own relatives,
Right.
or have an open conversation. And that's why, to me, traditions are important.
They are.
They can change, they can morph, they can become better, come worse, whatever it may be, but it's
Right.
important to have a
Yeah.
tradition of some sort.
And I'd say for me, the word I'd use is their connection, which is you alluded to. They exist to connect people in
Mhm.
some way, which is so important now. What'd
And
you
I
say?
think adaptable, right? So we
Yeah.
still have a tradition, but it doesn't need to be rigid. That's because life
Yes.
doesn't afford it necessarily to be
Right.
rigid.
Right.
So I think if we can kind of keep the eye on the outcome being like the connection, versus
right.
like, is the stuffing homemade or did we get it from Doug? Like that, those pieces
Exactly.
don't matter as
Yes.
much. Kind of like the tactical pieces don't matter as much.
Yeah.
Kind of being adaptable there, we can have that.
What really
What
matters.
really matters.
It's sort of like,
Yeah.
is your eye on the right ball?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Well, Doug, thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks,
I know
Doug.
you have a
Thanks for
busy
having us.
couple
I
weeks ahead of
appreciate
you for the holidays, so appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thanks for being
Thanks
here.
for joining us.
Happy holidays.
Happy
everybody.
holidays. We'll see you
We'll
soon.
be back soon.